It's not enough to just get excited once we get someone admitted into college. I think they should
Mhm.
continue to thrive and also be able to make, pursue their career. And if it's a career that maybe no one around them in their family did, they should be able to achieve, social mobility or get to where they want to be.
In this episode of After Your PhD podcast, I'm joined by Dr. Mary Ippolito, a college and grad admissions expert, writing consultant, and sociologist based in Los Angeles. With a PhD in sociology from the University of Southern California, Dr. Ippolito brings years of experience supporting students and professionals as they navigate the complex world of higher education, graduate admissions, and career transitions. Looking for a job or need extra income in your transition after grad school? With the new After Your PhD job listings page, I'm helping advanced degree holders turn their expertise into income, offering real opportunities and not just networking advice. Whether you're a data scientist, historian, or anything in between, you'll find roles that are truly fit for your background, especially those who are academics and those leaving academia. I try to source positions from Core, Handshake, Skip, which is ed tech, and other future partners who value research driven skills. If you're interested in learning more about roles for masters and PhDs, please check out the website or you can learn more in the podcast description below. Thanks. Firstly, can you share with us in your own words about what you're working on now? Judging from your LinkedIn and the research I did, you're a data analyst for a private law school and you're also doing some consulting work.
Yes, so I specialize in helping with college, university, and graduate school applications.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned, Ryan, I also have conducted some qualitative research analysis and written reports for basically like this nonprofit slash private law schools
Hmm.
project gauging community trust in Los Angeles. So it's like a broad description of the
Okay.
project. So I guess professionally, I would say I'm all about making complex bureaucratic processes and transitions in education accessible. I am kind of, shoring up different contract positions at the moment. Um, but I'm always exploring how to find more opportunities and open to more work as well.
Mhm. No, that's good to know. I know like a lot of people are definitely kind of like either doing like side hustles or they're maybe doing multiple jobs. But I think the good thing though is that you're kind of it seems like you're applying what you've learned from grad school, kind of your PhD, and putting that into like different types of work, at least from my understanding. Because
Mhm.
because did you come from like a qualitative background or like more of a quantitative background when you're doing your PhD?
Yes, I came from more of a qualitative background and my master's and my master, like what we called in our program, the empirical project, was a qualitative study of community college students' relationship to campus and then their transfer aspirations.
Mhm.
And then my dissertation was about uh, what narratives a public high school staff and faculty told the students like about their graduation, their transition out of high school, and then how the students like understood this themselves. So a lot of participant observation, ethnography, and then interviews, and then some survey data in there as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really seems like it does like apply, especially when it comes to like interviews. That makes a lot of sense. And before I kind of go more back into like the transition and like how you came to do what you're doing now, I did
Mhm.
want to maybe ask, and just in terms of like graduate admissions, because I don't normally talk about like graduate admissions, just because I typically kind of talk about like what's after your PhD, after grad
Mhm.
school. But what are some like trends that you do see within graduate admissions and just like I think like student support, like are more people applying for grad school now? Is there maybe less than that? I'm just kind of curious, like what you're kind of seeing on your end.
So I actually have been recently in the pocket of maybe undergraduate admissions, just because one of my previous positions was at a high school and helping
Mhm.
them with the transition into community college or four-year university. But in terms of graduate school applications, I just signed another contract with this great company called Another Degree, launched by Dr. Kelly Kistner, who is basically starting kind of, if I don't know if you've seen a lot of like maybe on LinkedIn or other places, like a lot of companies, like I work for another company called Path IV that's trying to help students perfect their application. And so she's doing this, but with grad school
Mm.
admissions.
Okay.
And so I'm just recently kind of jumping into this, I would say. I mean, I will say from what I've seen, kind of, I don't know if you usually get like political here, but there have been
Yeah.
a lot of
Okay.
cuts to programs and um universe like uh and so I feel like it feels a little unsteady right now, based on what I'm seeing, but that does not kind of remove the need for student support. If anything, it kind of strengthens it. But again,
Mhm.
I think some of the funding for some of these programs are kind of in jeopardy, but I hope that's
Mhm.
okay. That's my answer.
Yeah, no,
Sometimes.
absolutely. I mean, that's a reality of kind of like academia right now. Especially, I forgot what article I was reading about. I think some places like community programs were being cut, or less funded. Like, I mean, even like I think I mentioned about Indiana University, like funding for
Mhm.
their local newspaper. Like, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
different things like that are like happening in academia that I think deserves to be said. But yeah, I can definitely see the need for like student support because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about, especially if you're in high school right now, if college is
Yes.
like the right path. So maybe
Yes.
you could maybe speak more to that and maybe some of the like kind of the maybe the fears or maybe the thoughts from students maybe you're encountering, like do they see college, especially this I guess I feel old now, but I guess like the younger generation now, like looking at college universities, like kind of their thoughts about it now.
Oh man, there are so many. I mean, one thing I'll say that I kind of talk about a lot is the sort of um, one dimension of this, I would say, is with the FAFSA, CADA, and like when I was at my previous workplace at the high school, essentially, like there was trouble rolling out the FAFSA, and
Mm,
then there were a lot of issues with it on the user side and a lot of fears with it. And so I think there's definitely still a desire where students do want to go to college and do want to go to university, but there's
mm,
also this like kind of fear of, you know, a difficulty and opaqueness of seeing like how much will it cost me and is it worth it given what other just given, all of these sort of, like I was saying before, complex like steps and hurdles, and like there were glitches in it, and I would be spending like hours calling with this, sometimes with students. Um, the Department of Education would be on hold for hours, um, and eventually getting it done. But in terms of like I had an experience with a student where she had a very complicated just complicated situation where she couldn't get in contact with one of her parents, and that wasn't rare for me at the school that I was at. And the FAFSA often needs certain information, and she kind of was like, this is making, she's a first generation college student, and she kind
oh,
of turned to me and she's like, this is making me not want to go to college. And she had already gotten in to like a four-year Cal State. And
mhm.
I was just like, this is something is definitely wrong here
Yeah.
that like this is happening. And I will say, we like she was able to work it out and talk to the great people at the financial aid office at the at the college, university. Um, but I think um, the sentiment too is like, what I would really try to talk to them about, um, and this was hard for me as a 17, 18 year old, was like, will this university, like, depending on what I want to do, like, be there to support me throughout? Because it's important to get in, but it's also important to do well when you're there and to feel supported and to graduate and also um, to feel kind of not cradled is not the right word, but I do think that it's not enough to just get excited once we get someone admitted into college. I think they should continue to thrive and also be able to make, f pursue their career. And if it's a career that maybe no one around them in their family did, they should be able to achieve, social mobility or get to where they want to be. Um, and so I think I'm kind of going off on, but the interest in college and university is still there. I mean, the competitiveness is there, the anxiety is still there. A lot of the students whose families could afford it had a private counselor, and I worked a lot with the school counselors there, and they would often come in and say, "Oh, my private counselor told me this," which is at odds at what you're telling me. And I tried to
Interesting.
focus on bringing everybody on the same page together. Maybe this doesn't necessarily have to be at odds because I think that's confusing for kids when it's like this person said this and this person said that, and that I feel like that's not productive. So, yeah, that was a long answer to your question.
No, I mean that's really no, I think that's really important to really have that kind of perspective because I do try to bring on people who I haven't talked to before that have some different type of perspective, and especially at the admissions. This is something that is pretty interesting, and out of curiosity, you said there was like information that was at odds from what maybe what you recommend and like the private counselors. Do you have an example of this? It's all right
I
if
would
not.
I would say like um no, it's a really good question. I was helping I think it was actually maybe not me having a different perspective, but I was a mediator, if that make because like the academic counselors there work with the students and they came every week to or so to help them with their applications. And then there was a student was asking me a question and then said and then maybe was asking about the odds or likelihood they would get into a certain school and whether they should apply. And so that's also like kind of a
Oh,
tricky
yeah, that could be
endeavor.
subjective, right?
And then so like she came to me and asked me, what do you think? Because my private count, this person said this and then this person
Gotcha.
said this. And so at the end of the day, I think I advised them to try applying to the school that they weren't so sure about that they would get in. And my rationale is the worst that happens is that you don't get in, which I'm
Yeah.
not invalidating if you really wanted to go there, but the worst is I had this, this happen multiple times where a student would say, I really want to go to this school, but I don't think I can make it. I would ask them sort of, what are your grades? I could look at access their transcript, this, and if there's a shot, I'm not trying to be like overly optimistic, but if there's a shot, then um, and I can help you sort of get ready your materials ready and we still have maybe at least more than 48 hours before this is happening. Why don't we try it? Because the worst that happens is that you get in. But yeah, so that's an
That's a
example,
good
I guess.
example, and I do see like how there's a lot of like subjectivity there, and how like
Yes,
it
because you
is a lot
can't
of like
promise it,
you can
even
you can have
you
all the
wish you
inputs.
could.
Yeah, so because there's a lot of things out of your control, so I definitely see that too. But I did want to get back more into you, Mary, more into your journey. So looking back, like what first inspired you to do a PhD in sociology?
Yes, so it was a combination of things, honestly. I'm not sure there's one thing, but First of all, my mom is actually a sociology professor at a community college um,
Yeah.
in Southern California, and so um, I probably was influenced. And being a sociologist, you are socialized, right? Whether you want to be or not. And so I grew up. I actually, she had me quite young. And
Mhm.
so I was there when she was in college. I would also come with her to her office hours in the department at Stony Brook where she got her PhD. Like I remember doing my homework while she was probably grading papers and meeting the other grad students. Um, and so I did my own thing with school, and I actually took my first sociology class in undergrad my freshman year.
Mhm.
And so that being said, like my mom didn't formally like school me in all the theories or anything like that. Um, but I did take a class because I was really interested. And I loved the perspectives. I loved the analytical, yeah,
Mhm.
just the theories. I was really into it. I was like, wow, I haven't seen the world from this perspective. Sounds really romantic, but I was like really into it. And I also started a job tutoring student athletes in college as well. And I really liked teaching. And so I thought to
Mhm.
myself, what better way to combine these things? And I also was like, sociology gives you a language to describe certain trends that you see, certain patterns, certain
Mhm.
observations to situate something might happen to you. And when you start to realize that you can situate it in a broader, like historical time, it kind of there's like an agency, there's a power there to like say, oh, this isn't just happening to me, or I can explain why this is going on, um, or how it's going on and what it looks like, and also in terms of like, inequity or your, sort of life chances or being able to being able to basically catalog and describe and identify, hopefully help change certain things so that they don't have to stay that the way that they are. So I thought I really wanted to be a teaching professor when I was in college, like by the end of college. And so I took a gap year. I
Yeah.
worked actually at a children's museum and as in the athletics department and student support services. And then I was like, I will go back and get my degree to teach.
Yeah, and I think that can answer my question of like just your interest in like academia, like teaching. But now, like, looking back, what was there that moment though, while in grad school, while you're in the process of working on your PhD, maybe during coursework, doing your dissertation, that you're kind of just thinking about maybe what you wanted to do next after your PhD? Like, did you try to apply for any academic roles? Just kind of curious.
Yeah, so it's when this question is uh, made me think about how in grad school it's something that feels like a total institution. I don't
Mhm.
know if you've heard that phrase before, but it's like um, a sociologist named Irving Goffman kind of, I think, first wrote about like asylums, for example, as or like the military. It might be a little exaggerating, but
Yeah, a little
like
bit, but I
grad
can see
grad
some
school
similarity.
feels very, at least for me, sort of like all encompassing as a lifestyle and as a profession.
Yeah.
You got your teaching, your service, your research, and then I was lucky to make friends in grad school, and so um, it definitely felt uh, sort of like I was really focusing on the day to day. And maybe that's something, if I could go back, I might try to focus more also on what I would be doing afterwards because in COVID. 19, that happened in the middle of my dissertation data collection where I was going to school and observing. And so everything shifted online. And so I shifted my whole project online, which ended up working out because people had time for interviews
Yeah,
that
I
I'm
see
not
that.
sure they would have time for before that. But during COVID, I had been in grad school maybe 5 years, 6 years, and I had thought I had seen a couple things and I had reassessed and thought that teaching was my goal before, but maybe there's some other ways that I could apply, that I could support students or I could support people going through educational transitions. So that was like a little glimmer of, okay, I have to think about what's going on. Um, but honestly, I think that I could if I had a time machine, I might think a little more about that, knowing what I know now. Um, if that makes sense. I was very
Yeah.
focused on making it through and finishing my PhD.
No, and I kind of can relate to that. And I was kind of finishing up my degree like when COVID hit, so that I think that definitely
Yeah.
kind of woke people up. But but yeah, so I I think it's totally normal to just kind of look back and kind of rethink things. But I do
And
wonder, like,
academic rules. Oh yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. Yeah. And then when you learn more about like just how competitive it is, like it does kind of make you think about like
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it was probably like a was it a tough choice, I guess is kind of my question. Like did you feel like when you made the transition, like if did it feel right? And then I just kind of a sort of related question. You did talk about being supported, like how students should be supported through their kind of through their time at university. Did you feel supported at all when you made your transition away from academia?
Yes. So, did it did it feel right? Um,
Hmm.
uh, I think that I think it was hard to be honest with you because
Yeah.
I had built my identity around te around teaching, and so I knew that I had to actually operate a little differently than those that are going for maybe an R1 or
Mhm.
R2 goal. So that being said, I joined a teaching subcommittee where we kind of developed events and programming, helping students like who wanted to focus on teaching professions. I did a lot of side gigs.
Mhm.
I worked at the USC Writing Center, which was a big highlight for me, um, helping students with their writing. And so in terms of looking for an academic job, I did apply for some on my first year on the market when I was finishing my dissertation. Um, and I didn't get them. And I also, to be honest, so there are several reasons I chose not to pursue academia, which was I kind of had a two-body problem,
Mhm.
where location wasn't super flexible for me. So that was one kind of constraint. Um, Another was for the teaching route, like you mentioned, it's super competitive. And I also had gone to a lot of panels and my mom has tenure, which like is amazing. She also immigrated to this country, which is like
Oh,
honestly
congrats.
just
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, thank you. Like I mean a long time ago,
Yeah.
but she like we know as well as anyone like how difficult it is to get like tenure
Mhm.
and sort of there's a phrase called like freeway flyers where you have to really like collect all these adjunct positions and then kind of work your way up.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to stay in the same place for a long time or be able to sacrifice. So there are several reasons why I thought, and then there was also some, uh, kind of interesting competitive things that happened that I won't really go into.
It's all right.
But there's just a lot of factors that made it, as you can probably tell as I'm explaining this, difficult to let go of the identity. But then I'm starting to think, well, there's different ways that you can mentor others or teach others, and maybe it doesn't look like how I thought, but that's okay. And maybe it could be like a little exciting. And then I'm forgetting the second question you had
Yeah,
was, I'm
so
forgetting
just about,
it.
yeah, no problem. It was about kind of
Oh,
just support you,
support,
yeah,
support.
university support, because I know a lot of universities really want to help students like maybe find that academic job. I remember a lot of panels when I was at IU that were really about like, oh, you want to be a professor? Like we have tons of panels on that. But
Yeah,
there
like
weren't a lot of
here's a
panels for
panel.
like alternative like careers. And I think I remember going to one, like, and I think there were very many offered. Some of them I had to go like outside of the media school, but yeah, just in terms of support, did you feel like you could go to someone in the university to say, hey, like maybe I don't want to do an academic job, so like what type of options do I have?
So I received a lot of support from my department in terms of finish, or from several, or my chair mainly in finishing my dissertation.
Mhm.
However, I will say that um, in terms of alt-ac careers, I do not feel like I had a lot of support there. And the reasoning is I think that a lot of the professors there are well regarded and well known for they've only had a career in academia.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I kept hitting a little bit of a wall where I also, I would be asking for um, how do I make this step? And I did get, like, let's say a referral from a professor for someone that works at a UC, and I did have like an informational interview with them.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was like a helpful thing. But I do think that there's a lot of improvements that could be made for the alt-ac career. I was even scared in my program to say that I wanted a teaching career. This was like 10 years ago that I started, or like, 9 years ago that I started, but I was told kind of, keep your cards close to your chest, so to speak. And so now it's kind of funny because, now I want an alt-ac career. I've been pursuing that, and I hope that maybe we could sort of I could understand, from their perspective, you want to create more scholars, right? And you want
Mhm.
to place those scholars in top ranked departments and universities and have edge research, and that all makes a lot of sense. However, if you do look at the numbers, and I read the Leaving Academia practical guide, like for, social sciences, humanities, like it's quite shocking how many people don't end up, in
Yeah,
a full-time professorship, and it feels like there's really a dearth of place of support. And afterwards, there are times that I feel like it's been a fever dream. Like, did I ever, like, I still communicate with friends from there, from the program, but I'm like, that felt like a different world.
it
It
really
felt.
does. Yeah, and maybe like alt hack isn't maybe the best term for it. I know a lot of like discourse around it. Especially when like it seems like the majority of people getting their PhD aren't in academia, so it seems kind of the inverse.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's still like it feels that way at least when you're in the program. And I did want to maybe talk more about just because I know you mentioned identity a couple times and just how like grad school kind of shapes who you are and maybe kind of shapes your worldview. You just kind of feel like you're a grad student first and sometimes at times. But do you have any advice for those, maybe for people who are just trying to find that identity post PhD? What type of advice would you give them to maybe help break out of that kind of mold?
Oh, yes. This is something I'm still working on for sure. But I think that first, you will probably have to grieve it depending on the level of attachment you had to that identity. So
Mhm.
there's several articles out there about different types of grief and just as a concept, this was something you had maybe that was like one potential version of yourself. Um, and it was rooted in a lot of time. And it's okay to feel like kind of, you know, complicated feelings about it and to honor it in a certain way. Um, However, on the other side of that, you can also see how your world can open up. And to find your professional identity, one thing that's helped me is to try to approach it like exploratory and to approach it in the way of, wow, there's a lot of experiences that, I felt shut off from, or I shut myself out from
Mhm.
in graduate school. But now I can ask myself things like I can read for fun. Um, I can think about what type of lifestyle that I want, and what type of things that I want in my career. Um, and I definitely feel like when I first graduated, I was like, what do I do with like I had to find a job, obviously, but I was like, what do I
Yeah.
do with all this time? And also the mental guilt of like not having to do this stuff. And it's taken me time to reorient myself, but it's been exciting to discover these other parts of yourself. And the hope is that, you maybe replace or you build on your identity and you have whatever that looks like for you, professionally. And like you mentioned at the beginning of this call, like I'm trying to build on the things that I have learned, and I'm sure that I'll continue to learn from them, and I hope that I'll continue to build on every that identity and kind of reform it and make a new one as I go.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and it's something I think you're always kind of becoming. Like, I think even for myself, like, I, I'm still trying to maybe get over habits I might have learned in grad school that weren't great. And just trying to like be more in the moment, like read more, maybe read more fiction, maybe
Hmm.
things like that. Like, yeah, like it did take me a little bit to do that as well. So yeah, I think we're all kind of doing it with in different ways. So I do appreciate your kind of your thoughts there, and that's just professional identity. Like I feel like there's more personal aspects of it too that could go on for a lot longer, I think, for some
Yeah.
people. But
It,
I did want to maybe leave the floor open for the end of this call, just kind of this yeah, this call. Is there anything that we missed that you want to maybe mention? Anything that might help people that are listening, especially those maybe in sociology? Just again, want to leave the floor open.
I think that we covered a lot. I will say, like, I found your channel or platform. And I've I like there's a lot of resources online, and books, and I know that you mentioned or plugged them. One of the ones I read that I know is popular is The Leaving Academia, a practical guide,
Mhm.
as well as like I can't think of specific people now, but there's a lot of Substacks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Chronicle of Higher Ed or Inside Higher Ed for alt-ac in the kind of higher ed direction. Um, and there's even other people that, or, there's what's the word, psychologist articles, things that maybe there's just a lot of resources online that I've found and tried to use to help me when I feel kind of alone in the process, and the reality is that we're not alone, and
Mhm.
that it's yeah, and that's comforting for me at least. And so that's the only thing I would say really, and um, I hope that we can, I hope that everyone can find what's like meant for them.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
and I appreciate that, and yeah, and just having you on it, I think is great, just to kind of share, especially your experience from a sociology kind of perspective. Because I do feel like each discipline also kind of has its own challenges. Those in STEM might maybe they have it easier, maybe they don't. But
Hmm.
I think humanities folks I've talked to, it seems like there is a little bit harder path at times, but it seems like though you are kind of learning how to use your skills in a I think in a productive way outside of academia. So I think that's really great to kind of see and share with others.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mary. So yeah, again, thank you so much.